Okay, now we've got Marcus time. Gee, well, Marcus sent the biggest CV. Captain Fringe World. Okay, obviously a lot of people know Marcus. Somewhat of an arts entrepreneur and a rare and talented individual. Great sense of humour, great cutting intellect. He's a well-respected artist in WA and across Australia. He is the leader and figurehead for the Fringe Festival, an event that I assume all of you or most of you have enjoyed for several years. Marcus has nurtured this very small undertaking into a tremendously successful event that's brought thousands of people together to art, and it's been such a tremendous success. I think second or third most popular Fringe festival in the world. That's remarkable. He's also been involved with some stunning in artworks, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the Rainbow and Fremantle, and also the stunning artwork with Christian at the Cathedral, St George's Cathedral. Marcus also has some very interesting ventures ahead, which he may speak of tonight. But he certainly showed me one recently, which is really attractive. So a lot more to come from Marcus. I could go on and on. I'm sure you all know Marcus well. I'm sure he will be somewhat controversial, and we're all looking forward to position number 3.
Just want to clarify, the project that I showed Jeff was the Rackabite, okay? Because that was sounding a bit weird. Now, Margaret, I think you're an exceptional diplomat. You spoke about the good intent of certain practice. One of my favourite one-liners was coined by Saint Bernard of Clairvaux in the 12th century, which was quite simply, the pathway to hell is paved with good intent. In the lead up to tonight, I was sent a message on Facebook by someone asking whether they'd be forced to, in their own words, sit and listen to the panel, regurgitate what we have done, and think again. As a rule, I try not to get drawn into ping-pong verbiage with strangers on social media, but I did respond to this query. I pointed out that no one is actually forced to attend this event. I even went so far as to recommend, to now quote myself, either not come at all or leave for a presentation if it's irking you. The idea that anyone is making themselves do anything that they don't want to do due to manners, it offends me. Your absence will not. I bring this up now as a reminder, if that person is in the audience, and an open invitation to everyone else. You're more than free to leave at any time. On the subject of snide, possibly petty bitchiness, the title of my talk tonight is Form Follows Finance and the Public Banality. This is, of course, a play on the battle cry of modernist architecture, form follows function, as coined by the mentor of Frank Lloyd Wright, Louis Sullivan. From form following function, to form following fashion, to form following finance, is a snapshot way to sum up the progression from modernism to postmodernism in the realm of art and built form, and the penultimate late capitalist ransacking of art and cul-de-sacking of culture as global commodity. From a more parochial point of view, form follows finance and the public banality is, of course, also a gentle satirical dig at local arts agency Form and their annual Festival of Urban Art, Public. Now, don't get me wrong, Form implements an extraordinary amount of work across so many various fields and terrains right across the state. It's incredibly commendable work. Some of it is very, very good, and much of the work in the annual public festival sits in that category. I have personally, if not professionally, always had some intrinsic concerns about the public festival initiative, which by its sanctioned nature involves street art sanitisation and graffiti as tool of gentrification. This kind of thing makes me imagine wolf children being rounded up and having their fangs removed with surgical dental pliers to make them more productive and not so menacing. Personally, I think wolves should be encouraged to stay wild and not be domesticated as the pets of placemaking propaganda. Otherwise, they become, by default, dogs. But that is a personal viewpoint and comes perhaps down to taste. From a professional stance, it was the irreparable desecration of some very significant porous cast concrete brutalist architectural fabric on the Curtin University campus during the last public festival that was more concerning. This vandalism has been an ongoing topic of some consternation throughout the architectural community of Perth and beyond. Beth has written about it. David Weir, who I think is here politely. David Weir, who has many interesting things to say about the subject, available on his website. The fact that photos of children looking happy and animated in front of this desecration are still being used for promotional purposes only adds further insult to this injury, as it indicates that the key decision makers and gatekeepers involved do not necessarily see, let alone acknowledge, the error of their ways. A quote from the Forum website about the works at Curtin. It's about using culture and creativity to enrich the way in which we live, work and learn. Finding ways to improve our places, neighbourhoods and cities for the good of all is a central theme. A university campus is a perfect place to put some of these ideas into action. End of quote. If this is the action, I think the ideas, or lack thereof, behind the action are sad and possibly dangerous. On the subject of public art gatekeepers getting blindsided by their own hype, some other targets alluded to in the summary description of my talk include bureaucrats and corporate clients. If I were to extend that list, I'd definitely include some consultants, including some funded organisations that manage public art commissions on behalf of government departments, commercial developers and corporations. My view is that there is a lot of very good public art, and there is also a lot of not so good public art, and generally that the more gatekeepers and middlemen and agencies and marketeers and planners get involved, the greater the chance that the results will not be what they could be. Now, trying to avoid the language of placemaking, which can be very hard, given it is so ubiquitous, let's try and talk about what it is we maybe long for in the public domain. Perhaps we long for art that constantly gets under the societal skin, art that irritates and stimulates and inspires in equal measure. Perhaps we long for art that shocks and rocks and challenges and wows us every day of our lives, art that serves as a springboard for an individual's imagination and a collective's very consciousness, art that is considered and critical and courageous. Maybe in our communal spaces, we do not want saccharine corporate baubles and safe bling things, an art that smells like advertising or looks like it was conceived by an architect or a graphic designer. We want our art to be memorable, not forgettable, in our faces, not invisible and bland amidst all the other visual detritus that makes up our reality. Ultimately, perhaps we want our public art to be dangerous. So why is there not more authentic, wild in our public art? I ask again, are the bureaucrats to blame? In preparation for tonight, I was researching a lot about historical, current and potential future public art policy, including the origins of the Percent for Art scheme in Roosevelt's New Deal programs of the 1930s, developed of course in response to the Great Depression, namely the Art and Architecture Percent for Art program, and its link all the way through to current state and local government policies in this area. During this research, it struck me that I was starting to bore myself silly, which might point to the core of the problem. In any instance, it would indicate that if I followed this route, I would probably bore all of you, which could lead to more walkouts, which, although not personally offensive, are probably best avoided. So, given tonight I am an artist sitting on this panel who has recently completed a large new public commission for the city of Fremantle, apart from the lighting is still coming, an artwork that has become a bit of an instant public hit and has inspired a new underground fad in Fremantle, which is getting naked underneath it and having a photo taken. I came to the conclusion that what might be best is to stop my gatekeeper grumbles and policy deconstruction and grumpy old man gripes and simply share with you an excerpt from the presentation that I gave to the committee that chose Rainbow from a shortlist, an exceptional shortlist, and use this platform to give my thanks to Corinne Van Hall and everyone at the City of Fremantle for taking a gamble and trusting that big, bold, maybe dangerous, certainly crazy ideas can indeed be delivered by artists successfully with little interference if they've got some good people they're working with. I want to thank Brian Nelson and his structural team as well, because he was absolutely intrinsic to that. The idea that artists are allowed to do what they are meant to do without that kind of interference, it should be something that we're all encouraging our artists to do more. So I apologise if this is getting a bit self-indulgent, but I am proudly seated here with my artist hat on, and if it irks you, you do know what to do. So rainbows, delightful, mystical, magical phenomena. Rainbows appear in all creation myths, standing for divinity, good luck, duality and liminal space. The rainbow is an amalgamation of light, a perfect harmonic combination which produces a symbol of supernatural beauty, promise and enlightenment. Across cultures and across time, the rainbow has been understood to be both within and without, an internal microcosm that reflects and is reflected in the macrocosm. One of the most intense references to the rainbow is found in Hindu and Buddhist Tantra. Apparently, those who have surpassed their earthly tears are in a position to achieve the highest meditative state and experience the rainbow body. This has also been described as a body of light when ultimate ascension has been reached. The rainbow body phenomenon is an ultimate oneness and typically happens at the time of death. Google rainbow and you find out that rainbows never go out of style. Rainbows simply cannot be unliked. From a hallmark point of view, no other natural phenomenon generates so much sentimentality and yearning. The soul would have no rainbow if the eyes had no tears. That was a hallmark quote. In our age of late capitalism, it's also a symbol of insatiable aspirational yearnings, dreams, delusions, flights of fancy, fantasy, escapism. The winner takes it all. A rainbow has been an eternal gift to the human spirit since we crawled out of the primordial ooze. The intermodal shipping container has been the game-changing standardisation in transportation of goods that has fueled the explosive exponential growth of globalised economics and world trade since the 1950s. Add them together, what do you get? A new iconic entry statement to the portside city of Fremantle. Considering fine art lineage, Rainbow sits in the art historical arc of the ready-made, in particular ready-mades in boxes. From Warhol, to Coombs, to Hearst, to name a few, as well as ready-mades made from multiples of ready-mades, China dissident Ai Weiwei, LA dissident Chris Burden. But really, none of those others are actually ready-mades, a title that by rights is only able to be claimed by the original, if not the best, Duchamp's infamous fountain that changed the course of art history. Would Duchamp have approved of the rainbow? Highly unlikely. Too aesthetic, but who really cares? He was an arrogant French snob with a fetish for corduroy pants. What the good folk of Frio and beyond make of rainbow, that's what counts. It is possible that many will have what is referred to in psychology as a classic Rubens vase perceptual conundrum with the work. You either see the vase or the silhouette of two heads, but not at exactly the same time. In any given moment, you'll perceive either the rainbow or the box, but never both at exactly the same time. 1 minute thinking about leprechauns and buried treasure. The next, thinking about a proud port history of C.Y. O'Connor, of endless streams of very big boats carrying endless streams of goods and materials in and out. Thinking with pride of old salty sea dogs. whilst others think about a different kind of proud hairy man, and a nation lagging behind the rest of the civilised world when it comes to notions of equality, and leaving consenting adults to lead the lives they want. Both rainbow and sea containers hold the memories of 1,000 battles fought. Little known fact, rainbow flags were first waved not by drag queens on the streets of San Francisco at the first Pride Parade. They were waved by members of the cooperative movement in the German Peasants' War of the 16th century, but perhaps no time recently by the MUA, or by Dockers fans, or by those protesting the freight link. Of course, some may break on through to the other side of the Rubens vase conundrum and comprehend both at the same time, whilst others give up on really seeing or thinking and decide instead to give in and just consume. Touch the rainbow, taste the rainbow. A rainbow of containers contain an endless cornucopia of consumptive delight and deluge. In 1956, a refitted oil tanker carried the first 58 shipping containers from Newark to Houston. Today, one ship can carry 18,000 containers in a single voyage. In 2016, there are over 17 million containers moving goods around the globe at any given time. That's a lot of goods in motion, including sneakers. 204 billion sneakers, the estimated number of sneakers that can fit into the 17 million containers that are moving around the world right now. Rainbow, is it a symbol of the highest spiritual aspirations, or a symbol of the basest gutter urges that drive our frenzy of global consumption? Or is it perhaps both at the same time? And does it really matter? As long as the sculpture is making a child say, wow, maybe even blowing a few young minds, as long as it's getting honks of approval from dudes in trucks. If it's big and bold and colourful and weird enough, then maybe it's got the chance of becoming an instant Instagram icon, a photo opportunity destination, a place where an average guy is inspired to get down on his knee and say in all sincerity, sweetheart, you're the rainbow in my cloud, which might just lead to more photo opportunities and more Abbott-approved rainbow love, which leads to more babies, who can then buy all the shoes. If the work has done just a little bit of that, then perhaps that's enough. Regardless, the work is monumental, bold, brash and ballsy, and in that, rainbow is very Freo, full of fun and frivolity, resonant and rich with deeper references. At the centre of Noongar cosmology is a huge rainbow serpent. In Wadjuk country, the rivers are the dreaming tracks made by the Wakal. In Chinese wisdom, the rainbow is a bridge and a double-headed dragon, a mediator between heaven and earth. The rainbow is also a symbol of yin and yang, the colours harmonised, resplendent, perfect balance. The rainbow is both bridge and arch, symbolic of gateways, openings and portals into heavenly realms and heightened awareness. In Old Norse traditions, the rainbow bridge was referred to as the Bifrost, called the Tremulous Way, a passage to Asgard and the gods, the mundane and the material, transported, transformed and transcended. In Celtic wisdom, the rainbow is called Cambonimos, and it means curve of the sky, a divine feminine presence. In Celtic lore, making love under a rainbow is said to ensure successful pregnancy, thus the pot of gold, the promise of new life. So 2 weeks after Rainbow went up, I got a text message from someone at the City of Fremantle. This was on a Wednesday afternoon, middle of the working week. It's about middle of the afternoon, no real monumentous time, but the text message simply said, we've had to send a ranger out. Someone has complained that there have been people rooting under the rainbow for the last hour. And it made me very proud. Let's be done. Thank you.